Welcome to Gracefully Graying. I'm your host, Attorney Henry Gornbein. Today on Gracefully Graying, we will be discussing ways to reframe the aging narrative with my guest, Karen Faith Gordon. Karen, welcome to Gracefully Graying.
Thank you, Henry. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you. First of all, why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about your background, who you are, and what your new company is?
Thank you. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I specialize in the area of aging. That's been my passion since graduate school. When I got my graduate degree, I specialized in aging at that time, and it's been the passion I've followed throughout my career, working with individuals and families throughout the experience of aging and all the transitions that come with it.
First of all, what do you mean? What is aging? Are there certain ages? Are there certain parameters that you look at when you're talking about aging?
Typically, the parameters that I'm looking at are times of transition that typically happen post-retirement. Not always, yet many times I'm seeing people who are moving through life post-retirement and or post-diagnosis. So people are coming to me in their 50s and up with various life issues, challenges that they are facing, and we look at how it's affecting them and then the impact it has on the constellation of people around them, their spouse, their children, their family members. And we talk about what life looks like after a diagnosis, after a significant life change that has created a new trajectory that they may not have anticipated going through in their life.
Karen, how can we give someone permission to age?
Well, first of all, we can be as inclusive and embracing of the people around us as at any age and stage of their life. In fact, I would argue that we could appreciate people more as they age. Culturally, what we tend to see is a very clear dismissiveness of people as they age. And that can be very troublesome and disheartening to see. So embracing people where they're at and appreciating them for what they bring to the table at this age and stage of their life is one way of giving permission to people to age gracefully.
Karen, how is it possible to focus on what is possible as we are aging? I mean, tell us about that. How do we do that?
Well, I always ask people to look at what is possible, because when we shift our mind to what is possible, that is what will show up more and more. In other words, if we're looking at what we can't do, or we're lamenting the things that are no longer part of our life, we are focusing on things of negative nature, of scarcity. And when we do that, that is what will show up. And so in order to shift that, we pivot to what is possible. What am I still able to do that gives me joy in life? And it may take a minute to come to those realizations. It's a new muscle that we get to flex when we are seeking gratitude within a new context of life. But what is possible, as opposed to the focus on what is no longer working. Which is a tendency, again, culturally to think, why did this happen to me? That's a very, very destructive way of, it's a very destructive paradigm to live by. Instead, we can look at something has happened and we get to choose our response to it, regardless of the severity or the nature of the instance that's occurred. We have the power to choose our reaction to it in a way that does not overwhelm us or create a reactivity that would paralyze us from moving forward.
Karen, I'm thinking of the old adage, if you give lemons, you turn it into lemonade. So maybe that would be a possible example.
Yes. And when I am talking to clients and families, I really emphasize that it's not fluff. It may sound, it's not just about, oh, think positive and everything will be positive. yes, there is truth to that. And it's a practice and it's a muscle that we really get to strengthen as we age, because it is so easy to look at the things that are changing that are maybe less than what we might see as positive in our life, and to shift into a space of taking our energy. Our energy flows where attention goes, so we can give things our attention in a way that strengthens us rather than weakens us.
Karen, how can we shift from fear to strength? I mean, let's face it, a lot of people are terrified of getting old, are terrified of the fact that, we're reaching the end of a lifespan, and it can be frightening. So how do we change that to a strength?
Agreed. And I would never minimize the fear that can come with those losses. And when I'm with clients, we talk about that. We reintegrate those thoughts and emotions such that people have a strengthening of their own identity and their value, their self-worth for still being here. Our capacity may look different. We may not run the 5K that we used to run, yet are we still walking? Are our legs still working? Are we still able to move? And if not, are we in a wheelchair? And if so, do we have someone to support us so that our mobility isn't restricted entirely, such that we can get from point A to point B? We really are called to look at, yes, and I can still do this, rather than no, I can't. While it's true that there are things that we may not be able to do anymore, we get to be open to what our capacity looks like now and appreciate it for what it is now. And again, it is lofty. I realize that, yet it is a muscle that we can flex on a daily basis to really create a more positive paradigm through which we can see our life.
Karen, how do we choose new responses to challenging situations? I mean, there are so many challenges in life, especially as we're aging. Often there are illnesses, the fact that you can't do a lot of things that you could, your muscles don't respond. There's so many things. So how do we choose new responses to some of these challenging situations?
Well, thank you for naming that, because it is true. And in addition to embracing where we're at in life, which, as you said, can be very, very challenging depending on the situation, we also get to be mindful of our thoughts. If we are constantly thinking about who we used to be or what we used to be able to do, we are going to hold ourselves hostage. We are robbing ourselves of the present moment. We can find peace in the present moment, regardless of the severity of our situation. We have a choice as to how to respond to it. And I know this goes probably deeper into a whole nother level of consciousness in order to be an observer to our experience, witness it in a way that we are not so attached to it that we become emotionally overwhelmed by what we're experiencing, observing it and taking it as information and being present to it without feeling overwhelmed. It is a practice.
Give us some examples from your practice or things that you can share with us.
With clients who, let's say, I mean, this is a very light LITE example of something, but a client was talking to me about her, how she's shifted from her frustration of things taking longer for her to do, whereas she used to be caught up in the frustration and agitation around, let's say it takes her longer to do certain tasks around the house, or to do certain errands that used to be like nothing for her now take more effort. And she shifted to a space of, I have the time. It's okay. Like, it takes me longer. Again, this is a very light example, yet it's a starting point, and we all can take baby steps. In any practice, we start in a place that's comfortable, that we can work with, and then add to it. So in the example of this person, she was looking at time as the enemy. And when she could embrace it as a gift, that actually she's at a time in life where, okay, it takes me a little bit longer to do this. And guess what? I have the time. It's a luxury. It's a gift. I'm not fighting the clock in that regard, with in the context of doing whatever her daily task was that was taking her longer. That's a very light example, yet it is a way to start shifting the mindset to a place of gratitude rather than lamenting what is no longer.
Karen, one of the major transitions as we're aging is going from perhaps a very active work life to retirement. What are some of the things you help people focus on as they're transitioning to a lifestyle that's based upon retirement rather than working?
And this is hugely challenging, and I appreciate you asking the question, because what some people may think is, while again culturally we celebrate retirement, and hopefully most people can celebrate retirement, there is no denying that it is a huge life transition, in that the purpose that drove you on a daily basis for decades is no longer there. And it is eminently important to create new purpose and to find meaning in your life that may either not have existed before because you didn't know it was of interest to you, or taking those things of interest and really capitalizing on them now that there's time to do it. Now, it doesn't always look this smooth. I have many people who come to me and say, I didn't sign up for this. I thought retirement was going to look like this, and now it looks like this, and I don't know how I'm going to navigate this. And we talk about what life looks like now. Where are the major issues or obstacles that can be dissolved so that they can move forward, whether it's volunteering, whether it's becoming interested in new topics and speakers that are out there available to the healthy aging community, so that people can enrich their lives in ways that they may not have thought or known about before. There are many, many opportunities that people can invest in to create new meaning and new purpose in their life.
Karen, dovetailing on that, how do you help people find a new purpose or a new passion, for lack of a better word?
It's when we get into the conversation, and this is where talk therapy is so valuable, because oftentimes we can't see our own blind spots, and in the conversation, oftentimes we illuminate those blind spots through the discussion of topics, ideas, things that people haven't necessarily considered before as possibilities for themselves or their spouse as they're moving into this new phase of life. I often tell them about resources in the community, and I'm very grateful to be connected to many, many people within our community that are creating these kinds of enriching experiences. And I myself am working toward creating those experiences such that people can come together as a community and find interests and purpose that are new to them, and that are connecting them with other people of like mind who are also in this age and stage of life.
Karen, how does someone find you in your practice?
They can find me by going to my website, Karen Faith LLC, calling my office. The phone will always be answered, and you will always get a response quickly, and if not within 24 hours. And emailing me, I'm quite accessible. But the website is a good place to start.
Okay, we've been discussing reframing the aging narrative. What are some final thoughts that you would like to share with our viewers before we sign off?
Reframing invites the person to, it invites us to give ourselves grace, to acknowledge ourselves for who and what we bring to the table when we, as a human on this planet. We are so quick to, generally speaking, we are very quick and at ease giving compassion and love toward others, support and encouragement. I invite people to turn that inward, and people are often surprised at how difficult that is. Yet when we turn that compassion inward and we reframe some of those conversations that are happening in our head, and we reframe them from why is this happening to me, to, oh, this is happening, let me look at that and let me observe it, and let me choose a new response that doesn't look like the anger or frustration of not being able to do something, yet reframing it to say, you know what, I'm at this stage of life, and how I perform, it looks different than how I used to. The way in which I remember things, the way in which I cope with my life looks a little bit different than it used to. And I can give myself the grace that that's okay and that I'm worthy of being here and being loved for who I am today.
Karen, it reminds me of our tagline for Gracefully Graying, which is living life fully. I want to thank you so much for being our guest on Gracefully Graying, Karen Faith Gordon. I want to thank our viewers for watching us, and I want to thank our sponsors for making Gracefully Graying. Thank you so much.
Thank you.